America is turning 250 years old, and almost everything you think you know about its birthday is wrong. Not slightly wrong. Foundationally, embarrassingly, textbook is lying to you wrong. The date is wrong, the signing is wrong, the famous painting is wrong, and the rallying cry that supposedly started it all? Oversimplified to the point of fiction. Let's fix that, starting right now. Myth 1. Independence was declared on July 4th. It was not. The Continental Congress voted for independence on July 2, 1776. That was the day the delegates formally broke with Britain. That was the moment. Richard Henry Lee of Virginia had put forward the motion weeks earlier, and on July 2nd, 12 of 13 colonies voted yes. New York abstained. They were waiting on instructions from home, but the vote carried. John Adams wrote to his wife Abigail the very next day. He told her that July the 2nd would be celebrated by generations to come with fireworks, parades, and illuminations across the continent. He was so certain of the date that he reportedly refused to attend July 4th celebrations for the rest of his life, furious that history had shuffled the credit to the wrong morning. He was right about the celebration. He was wrong about which day would get it. So what happened on July 4th? Congress finalized and adopted the official text of the Declaration of Independence, the written explanation of why they had done what they had already done 2 days earlier. July 4th is technically the birthday of a document, not of a nation. Myth 2. The founders all signed the Declaration on July 4th. They did not. Most of them were nowhere near a pen that day. The famous engrossed parchment, the one we picture, the one that sits in the National Archives, was not ready on July 4th. Congress ordered it prepared, but the actual formal signing ceremony for most delegates happened on August 2nd, 1776. 56 men eventually signed it, but they did not all sign at once, and several signed considerably later in the year. One delegate, Thomas McKean of Delaware, may not have signed until 1781, though historians still debate the exact timeline. John Hancock, whose name sits enormous at the top, signed on August 2nd along with the majority. The date printed on the document, July 4th, 1776, refers to adoption, not signatures. Congress printed that date at the top as a matter of record. Generations later, we read it and assumed everyone gathered around and signed it the same afternoon. They did not. The room was not full of quill-wielding patriots on a single dramatic evening. It was a process. Myth 3. That famous painting shows what actually happened. Look at John Trumbull's painting, the one that appears on the back of the $2 bill and hangs in the Capitol Rotunda. It is magnificent. It is iconic. It depicts what appears to be a grand presentation moment, the drafting committee laying the Declaration before the full Congress. The men in it are real. Several are accurately rendered, but Trumbull painted it between 1817 and 1819, roughly 4 decades after the fact. The room he depicted is slightly wrong. Some of the men shown were not present in Philadelphia that summer. Others who were present are missing entirely. Trumbull worked from memory, correspondence, and portraits, a heroic effort, but not a photograph. The painting is a monument to an idea. It is not a record of a moment. The signing scene, as most people imagine it, solemn, unified, all 56 men in one candlelit chamber, simply never happened. Myth 4. No taxation without representation tells the whole story. It is a clean phrase. It fits on a bumper sticker, and it captures something real. Colonial anger over Parliament imposing taxes on people who had no elected voice in Parliament. The Stamp Act of 1765 and the Townshend Acts that followed provoked genuine fury precisely on those grounds. But by 1776, the argument had moved far past taxation. The Declaration of Independence lists 27 specific grievances against King George III. They include the quartering of soldiers in private homes, the suspension of colonial legislatures, interference with the justice system, and the waging of war against the colonists themselves. By the time Jefferson was drafting the Declaration, many of the leading patriots were not angry about tax rates. They were arguing about sovereignty, self-governance, and the fundamental legitimacy of British rule over colonies that had been governing themselves for generations. No taxation without representation is the appetizer. The actual menu goes much, much further. The coda nobody could have invented. John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, the second and third presidents, two of the most important architects of American independence, and in their later years, close friends after a long estrangement, both died on July 4, 1826, the same day, exactly 50 years after the adoption of the Declaration. Adams reportedly murmured Jefferson survives near the end. He was wrong. Jefferson had died hours earlier at Monticello. The nation learned within days that both men had slipped away on the Republic's 50th birthday. And it read to most Americans at the time not as coincidence, but as something almost ordained. Whatever you make of that, it is real. It is documented. And nothing about America's founding is stranger, or more poetic, or more completely true. America turns 250. Now you know what actually happened. If history lands differently when you get the facts right, subscribe to Historian Harry. There's plenty more where that came from.